Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really interesting question. How do you replace an icon? And I mean a specific icon. A Cartier watch that they just wiped from the catalog, leaving this huge hole that a lot of us watch fans still feel.
So, the icon we're talking about? The legendary Cartier Santos 100XL. And we're on the hunt for its true modern successor. But here's the twist. This isn't as simple as finding a new model. We really have to get into a major shift in how Cartier thinks about design. A shift that basically made sure a simple replacement just couldn't exist.
Okay, so before we can even start looking for a successor, we've got to set our benchmark. We need to define the original. What was it about the Santos 100XL that made it, well, so iconic?
You have to remember, this thing wasn't just another watch. It was a total product of its time, right? Think back to the early 2000s. It was all about big, oversized, powerful watches, and Cartier leaned right into that. They engineered this thing to have a massive wrist presence. It was bold, it was substantial, and it was completely 100% unapologetic about it.
And a huge part of that presence was just its physical volume. I mean, at around 11 millimeters thick, it had this really chunky, almost blocky, cuboid profile. It wasn't just about the width, it had this real, tangible depth to it that was just central to its whole character.
And then there was the weight. You know, at 129 grams on a strap, this watch had some serious heft. You didn't just put on a Santos 100. You really felt it on your wrist all day. That solid, substantial, almost reassuring weight, it was a core part of the whole experience.
And this quote, man, it just gets to the heart of the whole philosophy. The design wasn't trying to be subtle or elegant. Nope, this was about industrial-grade hardware, you know? Sharp angles, a feeling of just pure solidity. This right here, this is the benchmark we're trying to match.
But then, 2018 happened, and everything changed. See, Cartier didn't just update the Santos collection, they totally redefined it from the ground up. And by doing that, they basically made a one-to-one replacement for the old 100XL impossible, on purpose.
So this slide really shows the pivot. That old philosophy, what we're calling industrial power, blocky, heavy, assertive, that was just thrown out. And in its place came this new idea, integrated elegance. The new focus was all about svelte, ergonomic designs. Comfort and versatility became way more important than just raw bulk.
Now, this new philosophy wasn't just talk. It came with some major upgrades. We're talking the quick switch system for tool-free strap changes, Smart Link for sizing the bracelet without any tools, plus you get in-house movements and these beautifully curved cases that just hug the wrist. So they basically traded that old brute force for some really sophisticated modern convenience.
Okay, so this brings us to the heart of our quest. Since a perfect one-to-one replacement just isn't on the table, you, the buyer, have to make a choice. What did you love most about the original? Was it that aggressive all-black look? Was it the substantial, weighty feel? Or was it just the commanding size on the wrist? Because depending on your answer, you're going to end up with a very different watch.
All right, let's start with priority number one, the look. If what you're chasing is that stealthy, all-black aesthetic, then the full ADLC model is, without a doubt, the visual heir. It just perfectly captures that dark, monochrome vibe from the most popular Santos 100 models. I mean, look at it. Aesthetically, it's a dead ringer.
But here's the catch, and it's a big one. To get that look, you have to completely give up the feel. At just 84 grams, this thing is a whopping 35% lighter than the original. So yeah, it looks the part, absolutely. But on your wrist, it's a totally different animal. It's a modern, lightweight experience through and through.
Okay, so what if the feel is what you're really after? That physical heft, that feeling of substance on your wrist? Well, in that case, your best bet is going to be the steel model that has the black ADLC bezel. This is all about trying to replicate the sensation of the original.
And just look at this number, the weight. On the steel bracelet, this model clocks in at around 140 grams. It doesn't just meet our benchmark of 129, it blows right past it. This is literally the only modern contender that gives you that same substantial, weighty feeling on the wrist.
So what's the trade-off? Well, it's visual, of course. You get that authentic feel, which is great, but you have to be okay with a two-tone look. Steel case, black bezel, and a dark gray dial instead of that pure monolithic black. It's a straight-up trade. You're swapping the look for the feel.
And finally, our third priority, sheer size. What if, for you, it was all about that massive, commanding wrist presence? For anyone out there who believes size is king, well, the modern heir is clear.
It's the Santos de Cartier Chronograph XL. No question about it.
I mean, just look at the numbers here. At over 43 millimeters wide and 12.4 millimeters thick, its dimensions meet and even exceed the originals. So if we're talking purely about scale, about the volume it takes up on your wrist, this is the one. This is the true successor to that throne.
But this path, it comes with the biggest compromises by far. First, you have to be okay with a chronograph function, which, completely changes what the watch is. And second, and this might be a deal breaker for a lot of people, the dial is silver. Not dark, not black, but bright silver.
So, where does that leave us? Let's pull all of this information together. We can actually map out all these different choices and trade-offs into one simple, clear decision matrix. This is how we bring the whole quest to a nice, clean conclusion. And here it is. This table pretty much lays out the entire puzzle for you. You've got the original benchmark right there on the left, and our 3 modern contenders lined up right next to it. You can see each one's defining trait, its key specs, and, most importantly, the core trade-off you have to make. It's simple. One gets you the look, one gets you the feel, and one gets you the size. The key takeaway? You just can't have all 3 in one watch.
So what this all boils down to is that the answer to our quest, it's totally personal. The best successor really depends on which one of those original characteristics, look, feel, or size, you just are not willing to compromise on. It really is up to you to decide what matters most.
When you step back, this whole quest reveals something really fascinating. By getting rid of the Santos 100 and evolving the collection the way they did, Cartier kind of forces us to ask ourselves a pretty deep question. When we talk about the legacy of an icon, what really defines its successor? Is it the look, the feel, or the sheer size? And the answer, I think, tells us just as much about our own preferences as it does about any of these watches.